Hello and welcome back to Daily 687 Part 2, where we're learning why TLO is the betterest gamer. In Part 1, we looked at a fairly short game, but went into mega depth on all the little bits and pieces that were going on. The scouting early to identify, oh indeed it is going to be a Phoenix play. The follow-up of going for this or I should say the setup of getting the... Sorry. Let's try that again. The setup of getting the very fast Zergling speed, delaying the queens, getting the Zerglings in good position, scouting with the Overlord, all that stuff set him up to be able to swiftly go for Hydras, to punish a player who would have delayed Colossus and delayed tech. And then to go, oh, and you're also taking the third? Well, cool, I'll just go kill you with a fast Nidus network. Very, very unusual play, but not really anything you can do about it as a Protoss player. Here's a very reasonable question. I want to do that same opening that I saw TLO do, but what if there's an early cheesy attack? I have a game. I got game. Number 2, it's Genius vs. TLO. It's from the WCS. Let's look for similarities. We know that Genius likes to cheese. How are we gonna plan our build? Because win this game we will. TLO going for his Overlord, going for drones, nothing mysterious occurs. A probe arrives and looks very much so like a scout after pylon. We would potentially theorize to ourselves that it's an early expand, but no real need to do some excess theorizing because our Overlord's going to get there pretty soon. Alright, we have a drone getting sent. Just one, not any sort of crazy two-droning business. The drone's doing a very good job of putting himself where he needs to be at the expansion. Queen coming up. More drones coming out, because you know what? The Zerglings don't need to be out yet. In the last game, they kind of needed to be, but hey, what do you know? I've spotted my enemy going for a one-gate in-base play. Alright, I'm going to go mute Tristan's computer because someone's messaging him like crazy on Skype. Silence to all of Tristan's friends. And we're back. Okay, cool. So we see this looks like a rather different timing for the extractor. It's not really all that different. Around the time when this goes down, this extractor goes down. It's a slight bit early. A teensy-tiny bit earlier than in the last game. But not by much. Play. Overlord checking. Where's your gas, man? I don't understand where your gas is at, man. Huh. Continuing to monitor. Nothing but drones. And just a couple links. Just a few. Not too much. Just a touch. Just a few. Here's the metabolic boost coming up. Zerglings don't do any of that check around business yet. They first go straight to the front where they're needed. Seize the two gateways. Overlord's moving in. Now, at the 7-minute mark is when you'd want to be scouting in a player who's doing something like an early expand. But before 6 is kind of when you need to do things against a player who is going for warp. Or in case a player is going for that sort of warp gate stuffs. And one of the best signals, I mean, truthfully, one of the best signals is the fact that there's no gas here and no gas here. It's really hard to sneak a gas geyser there. It's a pretty dead and clear sign that there's some sort of gateway attack coming up. I mean, again, something as simple as he doesn't have gas. He can't possibly really be getting any Stargates. Okay, I'm going to be building Lings. So TLO just blindly starts building Lings. Blindly, because he can't see things like this 4th gate up here. But he has seen this gas, which is enough. Which is more than enough. Now, let me play devil's advocate for a moment. What if my opponent isn't going for a big gateway push. A very common thing to say. It's easy to understand, if I see gateways, I have to build lings. But it's very hard to understand, but what if he's not going gateways, and I've built all these lings? Don't worry. Because our Protoss opponent, we're not punishing that he's gone for fast gateways. We're punishing that he doesn't have gas. If this Protoss player skipped a gas in his main, skipped a gas here, and skipped a gas here, he's a one-gas Protoss. Everything important that Protoss needs against Zerg requires gas. Colossus upgrades, sentries, immortals, structures like Stargates, Twilight Councils, Robo. There you go. There you go. And it would be nice to be able to do some stuff with our Zerglings, but doesn't matter that we built a few Zerglings. We're behind on a couple drones, but we had 3 bases up. This guy doesn't have gas. He's an idiot. So again, the surface level understanding is, I see gateways, I make Zerglings. But here TLO's checking these gases, and he's really thinking, well dude, you're probably going gateway, but even if you're not, what are you doing? You could maybe be going for another base, like a 3rd base. Speed Zerglings are going to be good against that. I don't know, look at this. Delayed 3rd queen, same thing that we saw last time. There were 2 in this gas geyser, but TLO just drops it down to 1. No problem. Another queen coming up on out. Queens getting produced is a beautiful defensive tool. All 3 queens on deck. TLO is not messed around. He is making nothing but lings. Killing off probes and pylons. Watch this, it's so sexy. Only once he's like, dude, yeah, I'm fine. Only then. Way deep into the Zergling production. That's when he stops making. There's a gas geyser going down. There's a gas geyser going down. This guy sees a gas geyser going down. Same punishment as before. If a gateway rush fails, what is he probably going to be low on? Anything except gateways? Cool, great, we're all on board. Hydralisks, ta-da! TLO. Dun, dun, dun. Normally, if we built a lot of roaches without speed, it's relatively difficult to apply pressure to a 3rd base because sentries are still a big pain in the ass. They're a huge pain in the ass, actually, for slow roaches. But speedlings, not a problem. Easily gonna crunch that. Layer, extractor, extractor, extractor. No problem. Tries to do some poking. Has a couple lings spread out along varying angles so we can still defend. Kinda trying to scout stuff out, but yeah, making drones. Very easy rule. If you're ever worried that you're low on drones and you don't know how many gases to get, just get gases in your main and your natural and get the Hydra Den. And once you've hit 16 at this base, then build gases 5 and 6. So alright, cool. There's really very easy decisions to be made at this point because we have pushed him all the way to the brink of the front of his base. And, I mean, this looks maybe somewhat bad. It can be somewhat scary. Again, if you're doing this build order for the first time and you're unsure, you're a little unconfident as to how good your defenses can be. I assure you, you're actually in amazing shape. Look at this. No upgrades. Hydras first. Yeah, I guess I'll get muscular augments too. All sorts of Hydras. All sorts of fancy smanchy Hydras. These get canceled. TLO's like, what have I done with my life? So you heard me talk about the number of options that you have. Options, options, options with these wonderful Hydralisk-based openings. More gas geysers going down as the money soars up. One of the most standard transitions nowadays is Ling Hydra aggression directly in to Spire. Another base can come on up. TLO doesn't have muscular augments. He doesn't have speed. Nothing can escape because speed Zerglings surround and they are the highest count of unit. There's only 8 Hydras here. There's really not that many. Yeah, great. More Zerglings getting produced. Why? To save gas for the Hydras. Excuse me, to save gas for the Spire. And, nice. Oh, you know what? I saw a Colossus there. Huh. Well, I guess I'll just get range. And then we can just get Corruptors and go kill him. Or we can just go kill him. Oh, look at that. Contaminate on the Robo facility. Yeah, wow. Just killing the guy is a very effective technique. So I want to go ahead and look at another game from TLO. He's going to use a slightly different opening, but we're going to see that it's functionally... which one is it? Oh, that's not even the correct matchup. There we go. Functionally, it's going to be accomplishing the same thing. The concept that I want to instill in you is to think about the weakness of the opponent when we try to devise what follow-up we want to do to exploit him. In game number 1, we said, oh, you went for a Stargate? Well, you're not really going to have that many units at all, so I can apply some Roach Hydra pressure. I can even go for maybe a, what's its thing? A Nidus Network. In the last game. Alright, great. We held off this attack from gateways. What's your big weakness? Well, you kind of only have gateways, so I'm just going to go Hydras, because those are amazing against gateway units, and continue to apply pressure with these speedlings. Here in this game, we're going to see a similar opening from Genius. He's going to go Stargate, Robo, Expand. And we're going to see a little bit of a different opening from TLO, but it's going to be the same damn concept. Attacking around the time of the vulnerable third. TLO has spotted a pylon. He sees the forge. He gets what's going on. Third base goes down. Previously, we would see a gas right now. But instead, in this particular game, TLO is saying, alright, I'm going to not get this gas. I'm just going to get probably a third queen up a little bit earlier. I think he just builds it right out of this one, if I recall correctly. So, what was the number that I spoke of earlier? Well, around 7 minutes. We want to do a really good job scouting our opponent and finding out what he's up to. This is one of the greatest signals to us. Aha! Very hard for him to do a gateway push well. Was an opportunity for TLO to throw down Roach Warren, that sort of thing. Potential for gateway attacks happening around 7.5 minutes. 6-ish minute extractors. And then TLO gets in and sees, ah, great, a Stargate. So now he knows. He gets what's going on. Sees the forge beginning to research. Nifty. Zerglings do the same thing that they've been doing every game. They check for the third. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to just check the third. Every single game we see 2 Zerglings at both of the thirds, sometimes even rushing to get to the third. The third, the third, the third, the third, the third, the third. The third. And you know what? Roach Warren still goes down in case of gateway attacks. We have some Spore Crawlers. Not a huge amount. First, we're just getting a few, 1 in each location. The last location we get at is the hatch. We poke around the front. TLO's going, man, are you taking your third yet? A couple of roaches pop out. Why? Because we don't have Zergling speed yet. So here is another really interesting moment. This is, I think, the most subtle of the 3 that we've looked at. I guess I'm going to back up to around 8-ish minutes. No, actually, I want to back up a little bit more. So we've identified, up to now, what I've sort of been identifying is we know what you're doing. Do I have the defenses to stay alive? Okay, we want to make sure that... Are you going gateway? Well, let me just make sure I have my contingency plan for that. Oh, wait, you're going Stargate? Okay, let me get down my, my Spore Crawlers. Cool. But the important part of this whole show has been talking about how TLO sets himself up and then twists some way in order to exploit this weakness. Generally the weak link around the time of the taking of the third. So what do we see? We see a Phoenix killing some stuff off. A lot of very subtle things are going to be happening, so I'm going to put it faster. So TLO's asking, are you going for a Void Ray now? Are you going for a Gateway push now? You're definitely not going for a super fast third, because I don't see that. There's your Phoenixes. Are you still building Phoenixes? What's the attack coming up? Oops, I hate when that happens. And over time, TLO starts to realize, alright, you're actually not going for a big gateway attack. That's possible for you to be going for a gateway attack because, dude, I don't see a third. I just don't see it yet. So it's possible. So let me just get some roaches. Still making drones. Dude, man, you are just... I actually am starting to think that you, my friend, aren't going for a big Phoenix play to harass me, because I haven't seen them. You're not going for a big Phoenix play to get an expansion. You're probably opening Phoenix, and you're going to do some other alternate attack. So there's a lot of non-signals. Anytime you receive non-signals, that's a good time to worry. We haven't seen a gateway attack. We haven't seen a lot of Phoenixes. We haven't even seen them attack us with the Phoenixes. And most importantly, we haven't seen a third. Something big is happening back there. So here's just the brilliant move from TLO that I love so much. No macro hatch. Nope, nothing like that. A lot of drones. 55 plus, well, plus more. It's going to give him enough on these bases. We see pneumatized carapace, and here comes roaches. I said this before, I'll say it again. Roach Hydra. Roach Hydra on 3 base beats almost anything on 2 base. Here's the Hydra den coming up. Here's the pneumatized carapace coming up. There's no evolution chamber going up, and it's very important to see why. There's no expand here, there's no expand here. There's potential for him to be doing some focus towards late game, but it's possible he's just gonna go all in on 2 bases. So the instant TLO loses these Zerglings, you see this Overlord over here? Snap Overseer. We see Burrow also coming up to extend the advantage of those things. Zergling moves in to try to get some knowledge, but man, TLO is staying very astute. We still see, yeah, Roach Hydra. Just tons of Roach Hydra on 3 base. Again, around 66 drones, not soaring to over 70. And boom, TLO sees this. Now, if TLO didn't see an expansion, the next thing TLO would do is be immediately dart up here. He might even cut down and plop down a changeling and then dart up, but he really needs to know if that third's coming down. And we've talked about this many, many times. There's that weak juncture around the time of the 3rd base going down, especially after a Stargate. TLO has spotted everything. Overseer speed to check it all out. TLO just begins to set himself up in attack. I mean, staying very low on drone count, just getting a lot of Roach Hydra. Protosses these days are just doing a lot of like varying tech paths, a lot of switching to this and switching to that, which is really strong for a Zerg who's trying to desperately get to as late in the game as possible. But TLO's just gonna hit this point where he's like, no, you know, I'm actually just gonna go kill you. Or at the very least set myself up to. Obvious transitions from this point in time include things like, you know, going for a infestation pit and going to Hive. Getting the Viper as part of this mix. Heavy Rain is increasingly becoming one of my fave maps, because of the ability to set up these sort of multi-angle flanks. TLO very carefully positioning himself. He's getting a lot of stuff. Still doesn't have Zergling speed. Obviously puts a lot on this attack, but what we would normally say is that this is like a great force. to go up against this Roach Hydra. I mean, we have Stalkers, got a lot of Sentries, got our 2 Colossus, but what I want to really point out is how little this expansion has done other than eat up resources. Here is the clearest instance of an expansion presenting a vulnerability. That attack was happening at 12 minutes. Let's see how much has been mined at that point in time. Thus far, this has basically been a like 800 mineral sink. So obviously this sort of Roach Hydra attack is only working thanks to these really big open spaces. I mean, if this was the size of the attack path, it would be extremely tough to do much of anything. But the fact that it's this wide attack angle, I mean, this Roach Hydra force literally just waltzes right up, rolls this super quickly. In no time flat, everything's dead. And this doesn't look very complex. It doesn't look like TLO's doing that much amazing in a lot of ways, but the burrow means that he's extending the staying power of this force a lot. That swell of 6 geysers very early increases the amount of Hydralisks he can have by a lot. And he actually has an amazingly gigantic force all of a sudden. I think perhaps the most reasonable question to say would be, but what if there were more Colossus, right? We see there's 2 Colossus out right now. How long does a Warp Prism take? 50 seconds. How long does a Colossus take? 75 seconds. So, more or less, this Warp Prism could have been a Colossus right now. It totally could have been a Colossus. And I will emphasize something that I emphasize so much. If you're ever curious about how these battles can go, go right to the moment of the start of the battle. Write these numbers down. 31, 17. Let's actually do a count of the in-battle units. So we see here is 7, 11. Okay. And here we see 11 roaches, 24, 27. It's 11 and 27 for the Zerg. We see 11 Stalkers, 6 Sentries. Are all 6 Zealots there? All of them but 1. And the 2 Colossus. And the Mothership Core. We can easily recreate this battle in the HOTS unit tester, no problem, to determine to ourselves if that was a fluke, if TLO got lucky, or if indeed those Hydralisks with the roaches are able to withstand it. HOTS unit tester. Now I'm going to forget these numbers, so help me out here. I think I did a pretty good job remembering them. I'm not going to do too much micro because you can do the micro. Just some simple stuff. To the unit tester. For any of you who've never seen the HOTS unit tester, just look up HOTS unit tester. Terrain, we're going to go to a field. That seems like a good one to do. Zerg. What are the Zerg upgrades in this? Well, Roach speed for certain, and I'm pretty sure Hydra range muscular augments were down. I'm not going to worry about Burrow because I'm not going to do that much micro. From the Protoss side of things, +1 was done. I think Thermal Lance was done. I'm just going to assume that it was. And let's go to building some units. 1, 2, 3, because we're pretending that a 3rd Colossus was built instead of those Warp Prisms. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From the Zerg side of things, oops, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 7. Yeah, I guess I'll do 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Great. Now, the one thing that is a slight bit of an issue is that these sentries have a lot of energy. And I don't think they had nearly that much in the game. So yeah, I'm going to do the least complicated micro in the world. I guess we'll probably put the Protoss actually being surrounded somewhat. I think that's very reasonable. I'm just splitting up into 3 groups. I'll put my Protoss in the middle. I have to have everything control hotkey grouped. And I'm not going to do too much micro, just approximate force fields like we saw in the game. We saw some micro from these Colossus. But even with 3 Colossus... Whoa. Sorry, my screen setting's a little weird. There we go. Even with some micro... This is... I'm actually amazed that the Zerg had that much left over in the end. There's a couple things that I'm discounting in this. I'm discounting the stream of Zerg units that's coming in. I'm discounting some of these corridors that are going on. If you have a friend you can play against, it's really easy. If you're doing it solo like me, one thing that is a struggle with this unit tester is that you can select any of the units at all. So if you like box A and click around, you can just select the units you're fighting against and tell them to move. So I encourage you to do it with somebody. But with a simple test like this, with a reasonable surround, and not amazing force fields, but some. Oh, I think I forgot to Guardian Shield as well. You can set up these scenarios for yourself and convince yourself without even having to that this works, and when it works, and why it works, and what are ways that you would change around that. So what I'm going to do now is actually, Oxygen and Not makes a great point that in the actual game the Colossus would have had nowhere to even micro because it was a complete surround. Perfect. That's exactly the sort of stuff that you want to put into your unit testers to be able to be aware of all the variables that are in this fight, and again, what makes it work and what makes it not work. So I think I have 2 more games to show in part 3. Let me make sure I'm not lying to you really fast. Organized by this. TLO Grubby is a game I want to look at. We looked at the Polar Knight game. Nope, just 1 more game. Perfect. So when we come back, here's a very reasonable question. What if there aren't as many open spaces? What if I don't think my opponent is going to be very vulnerable to assaults at the 3rd? What if we're on a map like Alter Zim's Stronghold, where the 3rd base is very tucked away and there's a juicy ramp that Protoss can micro around? What then? It seems like a lot of this aggression wouldn't work. We'll see TLO do something that looks on the surface completely different, but when we boil it down to its core, it's still control and scouting early, and then punishing the weakness of a Protoss player right around the time he's taking a 3rd. Really gorgeous, looks totally different, but it's the same concept. We'll be back in a little bit to see it. On a break.